Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. What if Anakin fell in love with Shaak? To understand this relationship, we need to go back to the beginning, when Anakin first arrived at the Jedi Temple. He was 9 years old, whereas Shaak was around 27. Now I know that's quite an age gap, which is why they won't get together for a very long time. But even when Anakin arrived at the temple, he immediately noticed her, not as some potential partner for the future, but simply just her beauty. It mesmerized him. And when he was growing up and learning to use the Force, he would always notice her walking throughout the halls and always smile and said hello. It was innocent, something that caused no harm and suspicion. In Shaak's mind, she never even considered Anakin as a possible interest. With her being 27 years old, she had grown up under the Jedi's ideology, which was to form no attachments. She was used to this, and it was easy. This innocent relationship continued when Anakin entered his teenage years. Obi-Wan was good friends with Shaak, as they were similar ages and shared some classes growing up, causing them to get to know each other. This meant that Anakin would see her quite often and become friendly, exchanging jokes and humor, which only increased when he became more mature around the ages of 15, 16 and beyond. Everything would change in 22 BBY, just before the events of Attack of the Clones, when Anakin is 19 years old. Anakin, Shaak, and Obi-Wan were assigned on a mission together deep in the Outer Rim. The operation went smoothly, and they were able to neutralize gang threats on Lothal and restore stability to the system. But on their way back, they get involved in a complicated incident involving Naran Shiv, a terrestrial astronomical object. They are stuck in a nebula. A nebula is essentially clouds of swirling dust that move at fast speeds, which can cause ships to get stuck. But the real issue with nebulas are the creatures within. The ship is bombarded by Nebrae mantises, large flying creatures which can cause serious damage. The aircraft began to beep extremely loudly as they experienced damage, and they had to act fast if they wished to get out of this unscathed. Shaak exits the ship and ignites her lightsaber, attempting to defend them against this onslaught. She leaped from one side of the ship's exterior to the other, swinging her blade with precision. However, as she miscalculates one of the mantises, she is hit in the chest and blown backwards, falling to the floor and heavily injured. This causes Anakin to rush to her aid, putting on a mask to withstand the pressure of space. Anakin's approach was different to T's. He didn't ignite his lightsaber, but instead relied on his chosen one's Force powers. He raised his arms, and the mantises froze, not wanting to engage. As one slowly approached Anakin, he placed the palm of his hand on its nose, sending a message throughout the Force that they are not a threat and only trying to get home peacefully. The mantis, although unable to communicate verbally, could sense this message because of Anakin's Force ability of communicating with creatures. The mantis call off their horde and the Jedi are saved. Shaak looks up at Anakin in complete shock. She had never seen anything like this before. His power, maturity and skill was far beyond his age. This was the first time she looked at him with eyes that extended beyond just friendship. He was no longer the young boy who entered the Jedi Temple, but had grown into a powerful Jedi Knight. She had never felt this type of feeling before. It was unique, confusing, but extremely addicting. The three of them go back to the Jedi Temple and report to the Council. After the mission, Shaak attempts to shake off her feelings, but she finds it extremely difficult. What she was experiencing was out of her comfort zone, and she didn't know how to respond. To make matters worse, the Jedi Council assigned her and Anakin on another mission together, believing them to be a reliable pair. They are sent to Ryloth, where a coup has been established to overthrow the monarchy. The Jedi were sent to ensure that this did not happen. The two would spend every second together from now, and their connection became extremely flirtatious. They laughed, joked, and acted differently to how they would if they were in the Jedi Temple. For Anakin, his feelings began as just a young boy with a crush on someone far older. But now, he realized that these feelings had developed into a serious match. Their days were filled with shared battles, whispered conversations under the starlit sky, and quiet moments of solace in the midst of the chaotic galaxy. Anakin found himself drawn to Shaak-Ti's wisdom and grace, admiring her strength and unwavering commitment to the Jedi Code. In her presence, he felt a sense of completeness, something he had never experienced before. For Shaak-Ti, Anakin's determination, passion, and innate goodness sparked a connection that transcended the teachings of the Order. Anakin couldn't contain his truth any longer, and one night, he confessed everything he had kept buried inside. He was in love with her. She was taken aback and shocked. She never imagined either of them would mention the obvious connection between them. She paused for a moment and thought. She was in love with him too. The two stared into each other's eyes and kissed. At that moment, their fate was sealed. Their love story was a love that would shape their destinies and the fate of the galaxy. After they stopped the coup on Ryloth, they went back to Coruscant. Palpatine, being who he is, had always kept a keen eye on Anakin's affairs and had spies always following his every move. He had been slowly manipulating the boy for 10 years at this point, and he was not going to stop. The Dark Lord of the Sith was informed of their relationship by one of his secret spies. This was massive news in Palpatine's eyes, as if Anakin had an attachment this strong, pulling him to the dark side would become much easier. Anakin and Shaak-Ti had just done 2 missions extremely successfully together in a row, and the Council believed that they worked well together. Because of this, they decided to deploy them on yet another campaign. However, this assignment was not like the other 2. Instead, they transitioned to become security guards of sorts. There had been numerous assassination attempts on Padme Amidala's life, and the 2 were to escort her back to Naboo to protect her. This is the same mission that Anakin undertook in Attack of the Clones, only now Anakin's girlfriend Shaak-Ti was to join them. This assignment would go exactly as you would imagine. Anakin and Padme have a clear chemistry between them, and Shaak-Ti would become very jealous. She couldn't help but notice the lingering glances that Padme would direct at Anakin, and jealousy ignited within her. As the days turned into weeks on Naboo, Padme's affection for Anakin became increasingly evident. Her smiles held a warmth that lingered, and the way she laughed at his anecdotes was filled with a touch of something more. Shaak-Ti, perceptive as she was, felt a whip of insecurity, knowing that Padme's interest in her partner was growing. One evening, as the Naboo sun dipped below the horizon and cast a warm glow on the countryside lake house, Padme went too far. She moved closer to Anakin, her eyes locking onto his, and her hand lightly touched his arm. Her tone was intimate as the conversation became flirtatious. Anakin was taken aback, his eyes darting to Shaak-Ti through the window for a moment. As the tension peaked, Padme leaned in, her lips almost brushing against his. Just as this very moment occurred, the door to their room slid open, and Shaak-Ti, her heart aching with jealousy, reacted instinctively. She summoned the Force and sent Padme stumbling to the side. Padme was in complete shock and embarrassment, but as she saw Shaak-Ti run over to Anakin and grab his hand, she understood what was happening. These two were already in a secret relationship. The news was out, and the 2 lovers were forced to reveal their deepest secret. They tell Padme everything, but beg her to keep their relationship quiet. If it was exposed, they would both be expelled from the Jedi Order. Reluctantly, she agreed. In her mind, she didn't want anyone hearing her embarrassing story of rejection by Anakin Skywalker. The rest of the occupation with Padme goes smoothly, and they are able to protect her until the Clone Wars begin. Anakin and Shaak-Ti's love continue to flourish amongst the chaos of the galaxy. Their shared experiences on the battlefield and unwavering support they offered each other only deepened their connection. However, Shaak-Ti couldn't shake her wariness of the friendship between Anakin and Padme. She observed their interactions with a growing sense of unease, as Padme's presence in Anakin's life remained a constant source of tension. Anakin would still see her from time to time, and even went on some diplomatic missions with her. Despite these challenges, Anakin and Shaak-Ti remained inseparable, their bond resilient, and their love unbreakable as they faced the trials of the Clone Wars side by side. However, things take a dark turn when Palpatine interrupts their relationship. He believed now was the correct time to begin the final stage of his plan and attempt to draw Anakin to the dark side. With the knowledge of his relationship with Master T and the countless disagreements of his friendship with Senator Amidala, Palpatine threw a spanner in the works. He used the dark side to plant dreams in Shaak Ti's head of Anakin and Padme getting together. From Shaak Ti's perspective, she was sensing the future and believed that Anakin was going to cheat on her with Padme, her greatest rival. This continued for weeks on end, and she goes absolutely insane as the jealousy takes over. Anakin notices this and attempts to reassure her, but it doesn't work. Shaak Ti is losing her mind. These nightmarish images drove her crazy, filling her heart with a maddening jealousy and despair. She felt as though her world was crashing down. If she lost Anakin, then what did she have left? Master T knew that she had to do everything in her power to stop this from happening. In a moment of overwhelming weakness, unable to distinguish reality from manipulation, she attempted to take the life of Padme Amidala. Igniting her saber, she swung at Padme, missing the first and second strike, but as the third one moves towards Padme, it was accurate. However, this act of misguided rage was stopped by Anakin, who intervened in the nick of time, blocking her lightsaber strike with his own. The realization of what had happened hit them both, and Anakin's eyes began to tear. He stared at his girlfriend with a sadness struck in his heart. He knew what he had to do. Anakin broke up with Shaak Ti, a choice he never wanted to make but knew he had to. Anakin's response to the breakup with Shaak Ti was a storm of emotions that he had never experienced before. He was consumed by an overwhelming sense of sadness and pain, feeling as if his heart had been shattered into a million pieces. Yet, at the same time, an intense anger and fury welled up inside him, directed both at the circumstances that had torn them apart and at himself for allowing it to happen. He didn't know what to do with himself. A couple of weeks after the breakup, Anakin was in Palpatine's office and could clearly see the distraught on Anakin's face. Palpatine was like a mentor to Anakin and had always been there his entire life. Little did he know that it was all a lie and a ploy to turn him to the dark side. Calling Anakin's son, he encouraged him to open up, that the dogmatic rules of the Jedi did not matter to him. Anakin looks into the eyes of the closest thing that he has to a father and begins to cry tears of sadness and anger. He explains everything to him, his relationship with Shaak Ti, and now its eventual breakup. Palpatine comforts the boy, but also steers him in the direction of the dark side. He tells him to embrace the pain, that only when he directs his anger towards something great can he truly be free. Maintaining the narrow views of the Jedi would not allow him to become his best self. Palpatine paints the idea that it is due to the rules of the Jedi that Anakin has entered the situation, for if he was a Sith, he would be encouraged to love and care for Shaak Ti, which would have led to them still being together. He reinforces that the path of the Sith was made for him and that he must journey down it. Sidious calls on Anakin to become his apprentice and learn to use the dark side of the Force. Anakin looks at Palpatine, the realization that he is the Sith Lord hitting him like a ton of bricks. He tells the Chancellor that he needs time to think and leaves the office. Anakin goes straight back to the only person he has ever confided in, Shaak Ti. Rushing to her quarters, he explains the truth that he has just learned. They hadn't seen each other since their breakup, but they tried to ignore the elephant in the room whilst they decided what to do next. However, a strong realization dawned upon Shaak Ti, the wise Jedi Master. Palpatine is luring Anakin to the dark side. He will do whatever it takes to cause pain and anger within him. The two lovers deduce that it was Palpatine who was giving Shaak Ti the visions of Padme in order to break them up, knowing that the Force illusions were one of the most notable abilities of the Sith. They knew that they had to tell the Jedi Council about this, but in doing so, it would reveal their relationship to the Order and they would likely be expelled. But some truths were far too great to keep hidden. They go straight to the Council chambers, where they stand together and explain everything. how they're in a relationship, and that Palpatine has attempted to use that to turn Anakin to the dark side. Chancellor Palpatine is the Sith Lord. The entire room gasped in confusion and shock. This was dangerous. They needed to act quickly, explaining that they would deal with the relationship later. Acting with haste, the entire Jedi Council, plus Anakin, go to the Chancellor's office to confront him. Palpatine was not expecting to see him. He thought he had won Anakin over, but now he had to fight for his survival. He stands to his feet and ignites his lightsaber, charging at the Jedi. He swung with malice and intent, but he was no match for the power of the Council. He was able to strike down a few members, including Kit Fisto, Oppo Rancisis, and Aegon Kolar. But Mace Windu disarmed him, and Anakin delivered the final strike, killing him. With his death, the Senate was informed of the dark deception that had plagued the Republic for so long. In the wake of this revelation, Bail Organa was elected as the new Chancellor, promising to restore stability to the galaxy. However, Anakin and Shaak Ti's love had led them to their expulsion from the Jedi Order, as they stood at the precipice of their new life. Following Palpatine's death, the two got back together and vowed to never leave each other again. They knew that they had found happiness and didn't need the Jedi Order as long as they had each other. They returned to Shaak Ti's home world of Sheely, where they celebrated their love by getting married. Their union marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives as they started a family with 3 children. Together, they lived happily ever after, with their family by their side and peace restored to the galaxy. Thank you guys for watching today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Anakin and Shaak Ti is an interesting match, but one that I do think would work. But I'm very intrigued to see what you guys think of them in the comments below, and how you believe their love story would have played out. Do you think that they would have been able to stand up to Palpatine and defeat him? Or would their love cause them to fall to the dark side? Leave your opinions below, and may the Force be with you.